o'clock.
So I'm here at my good friend Steve Faler's place, and I stopped in, surprised him. I dropped off a Christmas present, and Steve's gonna show us what he's been working on. You know, Steve is very talented at carving stuff. There's one guy in the group that bought a Smeckenbecker cathedral clock, and he needed a pendulum. And I'm like, I've got a pendulum. He's like, how much is it going to cost me? $600. What? I'm like, well, if I give you my pendulum, then I'm not going to have a pendulum, so you're going to have to buy my entire clock. So he got with Steve, and Steve carved him one. And for you young kids, you couldn't tell whether it was Memorex or the real thing. For you young kids out there, Memorex was a cassette tape. You'll have to Google what a cassette tape is. But Memorex was the best cassette tape for recording songs off the radio back in my younger days, or recording stuff off of records. Again, you'll have to Google. Well, they got records now in Walmart, but Memorex was the thing. You couldn't tell whether it was the real thing or not. So Steve is going to show me what he's been working on.
Got a lot of projects going.
And this is his little workroom here.
That's my... This is a local team, Ozark Tigers, and this is their logo, but of course it's not made out of wood, but it's got a lot of detail in it and sharp objects that should not be played with.
Wow, those will scratch you.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, that is really good.
But he's tame. He doesn't lay eggs or anything.
Right?
So he's neutered. So
he's neutered,
huh? And there was the pattern for it.
Wow.
And I've got another one that I'm already glued up. That's what they look like.
That's what they start with.
Yeah, and this is poplar. I wanted a light wood because I wanted to be able to stain it. But,
right.
I just break the initial shape down and imagine it 3D already, and then I just stack them up, and it saves a lot of cutting time.
Right, right.
Carve away all that stuff. And it gives it a uniformity, because I can be sure that is the same as this.
Right, right.
Because after I make the design, you can see here, there's one shape. That's that one. There's another shape. That's that one. And the two paws separate.
Right.
And then I have the entire background, and it's layered on top of the base.
Cool.
And then I just shape it out from that, and that's what it becomes.
And do you shape it using carving knives or?
I use a little bit of everything. I use this. I'll turn that on, and it works like a grinder, and I can cut a lot of material off, like on rough edges.
Right.
Like right around here, for example. I can take a lot of that material off all around the edges, and sometimes on the back you want to take that down to cause the separation between the background and your object.
Right.
Then I've got quite an assortment of tools. To rough in a lot of stuff, I'll use a Dremel.
Right.
And I've got a big rough sander on that, or I've got big burrs that I use, and that takes a lot of stock off. And then as I get more detailed, I'll go in with the fine tools, and I've had this one. This is actually my favorite carving tool. That's why I put resin on it, because I just like to be able to find it.
Right,
It's
right.
got that shiny handle.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Many others are that shiny. And I've had that one for 43 years now.
Wow.
And then I've just picked up different carving tools over the years. And another thing I find very helpful for the level of detail that I do are these small files. I can pinpoint different areas, and I've got different shapes.
Right.
And that gets me a lot of that fine detail.
I see you got a pattern right here for a topper for a cuckoo clock.
Yeah, I made that one a couple months ago. I don't remember where the lady was offhand, but no, it's Australia. This ended up going to Australia. She had a topper that had a factory cuckoo on it, but I had made a previous, not cuckoo, but an owl. I had made a previous owl for, I think it was for Ron, and to replace an owl that he had, and this lady saw my design and liked it better than the original design that she had on her owl. She just thought this one looked neater.
Right.
So I combined her original topper with my design of the owl.
Right.
And she liked it a whole lot better.
Did you hear that, people? It went all the way to Australia, so he doesn't do things just here in the States. He has sent stuff all over the world.
And this, a lot of times whenever I make something, I will cut it out of 3/4 inch stock.
Right. That way you have a pattern.
And then I slice it
right
in half, because it doesn't need to be 3/4 of an inch thick. And you can see here all of my hack marks, cutting it with literally a hand saw, so I can stay on track. A bandsaw will not cut that. You can't keep it straight, and it's not thick enough. So I cut it with a hand saw, and then I end up with two. So I keep those back. And this one had a, trying to think of how it was laid out. I've got the drawing here somewhere, but it actually had an eagle head coming down, and so I had glued.
Right.
Yeah, this is the eagle head here. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, okay.
I knew I had it somewhere. And that, or it might have been this way. No, it was this way. That fits somehow. No, it doesn't look right. I think it was like this. And then this was in here like, yeah. Well, no, this is for another design. I'm getting them confused.
No, that's okay, Steve. You work on so many projects, it's kind of hard to keep up with.
But I hang on to my patterns, and I've also got a copy of what I made originally, because I thought, well, if somebody needs another one, I've already got the pieces already cut out.
Correct.
And down here, a lot of my patterns, I'm not going to get it out, but I've literally got it page by page.
Right.
And different designs in there, and different drawings.
Right.
And they all relate to each other. And this one actually was from you.
Correct.
Yeah. So I keep all my patterns.
Correct. Well, how about telling people a little bit about your history on how you got started doing all this?
I started out as a little egg. I won't go into how that went about. But I used to teach art, and I've always liked building. First started building, I guess, when I was 10. I just liked to see things built. And so I just would go out in the woods with a hatchet and cut down trees and build forts and
Right.
everything. And then when we started building our house in 1970, I was 13, and it was just a natural thing for me to pick up a hammer or whatever and help my dad build our house. So I learned how to do all kinds of
Different stuff.
different,
Right.
name it, tools, and we did it. And then when I was teaching, of course, you got 3 months off, so started building my own houses. And
Wow.
I build them and sell them. And
How many houses did you build?
there are 2 of them. They're down there by the Current River.
Wow. Wow.
And they're up above the floodplain.
Right.
When it rains heavy, it'll cover the highway.
Right.
And so, put a lot of that building to use. And in every house I made, I always had some element of carving in it. Somewhere in that house had carving.
Wow.
In the cabinetry or somewhere.
Right.
But I started carving, I guess, like this in 8th grade, and in art class. And I had seen in the supply shelf a set of carving tools. And I asked the teacher, "Can I make something with these?" She said, "Yeah, but don't cut yourself." And I thought, yeah, right. I can honestly say that I have never cut myself with carving tools. It just has never happened.
Just
'Cause I
all
always-
came natural.
Well, I'm always thinking ahead.
Right.
If my hand's here and I'm carving like that and it slips, where's it going to go?
Right.
So I have several things that I do to prevent that. This actually is what I would call a carving board, but I've since used a different one. It's smaller, it takes up less space,
Right.
but I can swing this around and actually use this for cutting.
Got you.
Jewelers will use these when they're cutting
Right.
metal.
Right.
So I'll hold my tool down here and cut my wood, little pieces if I need them. But in here,
Several blood stains. No.
there are several holes. They're all covered up with dirt. But if I'm doing some really fine work, I might have to clean those holes out. But if I'm doing some really fine work on a piece, I'll get this out. I'll turn this thing around and I can free up my hands, do the carving, and it doesn't move.
Got you. Got you.
But there are holes all over this thing.
Right. Right.
Just for that.
Now,
there's some there.
Now, as y'all know, I'm the admin for 2 different groups, and getting back to this Smeckenbecker Cathedral pendulum, the guy said he wanted a pendulum, and he, you can't find them. Smeckenbecker clocks, or you can hardly find parts unless you want to buy a used clock or whatever. And I didn't know that Steve was as talented as I didn't know. I know he's told me in the past, but as I always tell people, if you're not paying attention, you're not going to remember anything. And I probably wasn't paying attention when he told me that he was an artist. I taught art school, but I had it worked out to where he was going to make the pendulum, then he was going to send it to another group member of mine, and she was going to paint it. And he's like, "Well, I could paint it also." And like I said, you cannot tell whether it's the real thing or Memorex. It looks just like the original pendulum. He is that talented.
These are little I don't know how many pairs of these I've made, and I can't even tell you which clock they go to, but a lot of people, I see these, and a lot of times they're made out of plastic, but these are made out of hickory, and they are quite durable.
And I know with my 1880-ish Alexander Fleet clock, when he first showed me what he had done so far, he sat there and flexed the thing, and I thought he was going to break it. It looks very similar to that,
Yeah,
except
they're
for
the
mine
same
was a little
pattern.
bit bigger.
They're the same pattern.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. And see, I've got all the little pattern pieces. I know that looks very fragile, but the grain of the wood goes this way, the grain of the wood goes this way, and you can kind of see the grain, but it is, each element is not across the grain, it's with the grain. And what I've done is I've laminated and glued these things together so that there is no cross grain, because cross grain is very weak. So these are all with the grain.
Like I told you, with my antlers, I don't hunt. My neighbor hunts, and he hunts deer. And I showed him a set of antlers. He's like, Mark, whereabouts in the woods did you find those? And I'm like, believe it or not, it's wood. And he swore up and down it wasn't. And I told Steve the first time he showed me my set of antlers, if he would have dropped them in the yard, I would have thought they were a real set of antlers myself.
These are the same ones, and you can see the joints here. Of course, it's before it's stained. But you have to look carefully, but the joints are there.
Right.
And they aren't glued end to end like that. That's very weak. What I've done is actually carved out a place like this and a place like this, and they go together, and then you glue them together like that.
Right.
And they're a lot stronger.
Right.
So they're dado in, and you can't see it there at all.
And, you know, the world that we live in is plastic, and I know a lot of people would much rather have a set of real looking wooden antlers than plastic. And so if you do, get a hold of Steve. I will show you what his Facebook profile looks like.
Close up of that.
You can contact me through this video, and I will give you, you can message me, and I will get you in touch with Steve. The man is talented.
These are replicas of a lot of the railroad clocks. Of course, they had a lot of different designs, but I don't mind them getting them dusty because it actually
makes it look older.
It makes it look older. This one has not been what I call antiqued. I always want, anytime I make a replacement, I want it to match the rest of the clock. So what I'll do is, after, you can see how shiny it is there.
Right.
Well, an antique clock does not look that way. So I take this steel wool and I'll rub on it until
and scuff it up.
You scuff it up and take away that shiny finish.
Now you're giving away your trade secrets.
Well, but that's how I make it happen. You can see there it has what looks like, I don't want to say dents and dings, but it's just a normal process of aging when something is 100, 120, 140 years old.
Correct.
It's not going to look like it just came off of the floor.
Correct.
So that's what it'll look like when it's antiqued.
Correct.
I think.
Now, Steve doesn't do any lathe work. It's all carving. So if you have finials or something like that, you need lathe work done too. If he could carve it, he could carve it, but he doesn't do any lathe work. You don't see a lathe in this room.
and no CNC. I had somebody over in Germany said, "Oh, you're using a CNC." And I showed him pictures of that clock when I was making it in progress, and you could see it was being chipped away because I did this part first, and then I took a picture of it, and then I did a bigger portion, and I posted it online to him, and I said, "Well, I'm waiting for an apology, saying that I use a machine," and he never did. I just chalk it up to him being a jerk.
Right.
He'd probably use a CNC machine himself.
Right.
Okay. This is one that's been antiqued.
Yeah.
And that is the same as this. And I don't know how many of these I've made over the years, but it's pretty common.
But you know, a lot of the clocks that you find on eBay or whatever site that you find them on are missing these toppers. And almost every railroad cuckoo clock or railroad clock out there has a topper. Almost every, if it's other than chalet cuckoo clocks, they have toppers. And even I have a antique chalet style clock at my house that it looks good without a topper, but the original clock had a topper.
And that's where that owl came in, because she had inherited that from her grandmother, and she had pictures of what the original looked like, and she wanted it for sentimental reasons, so I made her a topper. It was missing a topper.
Great, great. Well, Steve, I won't take any more of your time. I see he's got a lot of stuff down there that he's worked on, or duplicates, or
yeah, these were the duplicates.
Right.
And I just throw them in here, thinking, well, I might use it some other time.
I hear you. So again, if y'all need Steve's services, you can get a hold of him on Facebook. You can contact me, and I'll put you in touch with them. And I said in my last video, I'm going to keep them busy, and I do. I want to keep them busy. I want him to stay busy. I see a pheasant that you've...
Yeah, and this is a big design for a clock that I eventually want to get done, but it'll probably be a 4-foot clock.
Wow.
Easily.
Wow.
But just a little bit of time, and so I just carve. I've got all the drawings, the elements of it, and then I layer these all together, very similar to this.
Right.
And put them on a base, put all the elements together, and that's where the designs come from.
Like I said, God blesses, and it says in the Bible that God blesses people with different talents. And Steve has been blessed with talent. I wish I had just a part of his talent when it comes to woodwork. Anyway, give Steve a call. Leave me some comments. Sorry, not give him a call. Contact Steve. Contact me. Contact him on Facebook. Leave me some comments. And may God bless each and every one of you.